What's up, fam? Haven't done one of these in a minute. Hello, everyone joining. Type in the comments where you're tuning in from, if you can hear me. Rogerson in the house. What's up? Coming to y'all from Bali. Finally landed here after a lot of travel. And feeling really good back in the tropics. Let's go. I stayed up probably too late last night reading about this recent controversy with Jordan Peterson commenting on transgender politics and getting a post deleted from Twitter, and really just getting into the fallout of all this and how people are just losing their fucking minds in regards to masculinity and femininity, and how gender has become political, has been for a while, but it's becoming extremely intense. And basically, it's just all part of deeper issues that I want to speak into today a little bit. And this is also part of the program I have coming out, which is called Primal Polarity, which I'm just going to start speaking a lot more about this stuff. And I think a lot of folks will get a ton of value from it. And a lot of folks will be triggered, and that's okay. And if it's triggering to people or they don't agree with these views on polarity and men and women, that's cool. There's plenty of other places to go. And this is one of the core issues I'm noticing is, well, first off, I haven't been sharing on here or posting very much for the past several months. I've been happy to be mostly offline, doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of traveling, and just dealing with clients directly and dealing with friends and colleagues directly instead of constantly posting on here. And yeah, I'm just curious, what have y'all noticed about some of these polarity issues? Like the question of what is a woman, or like how should men and women behave, or what are the rights and what are the things we should have to create for non-binary people or transgender people. And some of these issues that to my mind aren't even a big deal. Like obviously I don't have that experience of being non-binary, but at the same time it's like, yeah, cool. Like people are doing that, do the thing. The interesting part happens when people get up in arms about it and it starts to become an issue almost like race, but even more charged in some ways because it has to do with sexuality, where they're policing each other, shaming each other, getting into these extreme attacks about what is and isn't permissible. And then, obviously with the Roe versus Wade ruling and the abortion thing, this becomes a huge battleground between men and women, between non-binary people and cis white male privileged people. And to me, it's just more divide and conquer. And this is just more fodder for the fire of division at a time where there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, and people are craving tribal identity. They're craving intimacy. They're craving, being part of a group, being part of a deep knowing. And a lot of people are just craving a healthy relationship, which is what I'm going to be addressing in my program very simply. But I'm curious for y'all, like what are you tracking with this stuff? And if you can hear me, just type in where you're coming in from in the world, where you're tuning in from, where you're listening from. Organic Life Design, shout out ATX. Alana's out in Noosa. Rogerson in the Bali sauce. Yeah, bro, when you coming back? NYC in the house. Yeah, Through Beautiful Eyes says the gender thing is the agenda's elite. Apple Dom coming in from NYC. So the gender thing is, I think it's the elite's agenda is what you meant to say. What does that even mean? Who are the elites? What's on the agenda? Like, who knows these things? This is one of those traps of the rabbit holes of thinking XYZ about, groups of powerful people that may or may not be running the world. Which, to be fair, the idea that small groups of powerful people, basically like about 1,000 families max, aren't gathering and deciding things that affect the whole planet, if you think that's not happening, it is. Now, is it as spooky and crazy as, a lot of people make it out to be in a lot of these YouTube rabbit holes? I know I've been down and you've been down. No, a lot of this stuff is propaganda. It's psyops. It's there to confuse you or to make you feel afraid. And nobody knows what the fuck's going on. That's one of the core things, is anyone who's claiming they know what the agenda is or how things are playing out, you can be sure they're full of shit. There's clues, there's signs, there's symbols, and you can follow a lot of these things, and there's a lot of power in them, but don't get caught up in that game of thinking you know what's going on. So, Ryan in the house, new daddy from Austin. What's up, brother? Good to see you. It's just messaging your wifey. Stoked to see y'all's wedding. Gail coming in from GC. Prana coming in from Brazil. What's up? So Apple Dom says as they become more obvious and biased, they lose their influence. Well, I mean, that's true and that's not true. As the craziness becomes more obvious, yes, they lose influence over people that have discernment. Yes. But they also gain a lot of influence when it's intensified with the people that aren't using discernment. So it's a two-way street, and it's very tricky. Now, this is a crazy line of thinking, but it's worth considering. And I think there's truths hidden in there. When you consider, like, if you wanted to control a population, if you wanted to separate a society or culture or people, what would you do? Well, you'd probably want to destroy the smallest unit of cohesion in a tribe, which is the bond between man and woman. And then the bond of man and woman with child, right? Which is the family, which is the core unit, the cell, besides the individual of a village. And how do you attack the family unit? Well, you attack the masculine and you attack the feminine, and you do it differently. And a lot of what's been happening for thousands of years, but really it's intensified a lot over the past, since World War II, basically. So the past 70 years have seen an extreme intensification in the marketing to women about body image and the shaming and deconstruction of their identity and the sexualizing, while also suppressing the feminine nature of the being. And, you can look at many different ways this has happened, but women have been attacked in that way. The masculine has been attacked in other ways, which is wage slavery, which is brought into combat, gang violence, being drafted into war, drugs and alcohol addiction, and changing the image and attacking the identity of what masculinity even means, right? And creating confusion, right? The confusion is the real danger there. And this has been going on for a while, right? Some of it is just byproducts of the modern way of living. Some of it is an agenda of the corporate state just because they want to sell this shit, which in itself isn't bad, but some of the side effects have become very dangerous. And then technology is now on the scene as well, with platforms like this and platforms where images are bought and sold and shown to us in certain ways, and words become dangerous when there's not the nuance or discernment attached to them. And a lot of people have been led down a role as a man or woman, which has destroyed their relationships, which has, provided unfulfilling sex, unfulfilling intimacy, and not helped them create a strong bond with themselves and a love for self, and also a love between a masculine and feminine being, man and woman, or it can be same sex. Doesn't matter. It's going to be polarized if there's a masculine and feminine being interacting. Now, why is this, and why is this happening? I'm curious what you think. If you're listening right now, type in the comments what you believe is kind of the thrust here, or the main argument for this. Will you save this so we can rewatch? I'm probably not going to save this. But if you want to go deeper on these topics, I'm going to be doing masterclasses on primal polarity all around this and kind of my theory and practice of it. I have one already downloaded. So if you want to get that one, get on my email list or send me a direct message so I can send you the link to get your email in there, and then you'll get that masterclass. Yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think? Apple Dom says, thanks, Philly. At least in the U.S., constitutional protection of free speech is very strong, though corporate platforms are a problem. Yeah, so far, free speech is, alive and well, even though it's being challenged. The problem is something like Instagram or these tech companies, you're right. Corporations are people under the Constitution. They're a corporate entity, which is very interesting. Corporation, a corpse ration, is something that a corpse is eating, right? So there's some interesting etymology and magic there in the name. But yeah, it's tough because the fact that Instagram, when I post this, for example, if I were to post this video, they own that content. And so they have the right to change it or deal with it. And I don't have free speech because I signed an agreement, as did you when you made your account, that this platform basically has your data and has your content, right? Your thoughts, your words, ideas, and your images. And that's part of the game we're playing. And it's an amazing game, honestly. I've built a business using it. I've been able to coach people around the world, connect with amazing people, create content. And right now, here in the afternoon in Bali, I can talk to 20 of you around the world in real time. I mean, this is magic. This is amazing. That being said, we need more responsibility and discernment on these platforms, for sure. For sure. So back to the topic at hand. Thank you all for commenting. It's good to see some of you here. I see Viraj here. Ryan popped in. What's up, y'all? M3 in the house. Are you a David Data fan, Kev? I mean, yes, I think David Data, brilliant deep thinker on the topic of polarity. Way of the Superior Man, I recommend to all my male clients and all men that want to start understanding this stuff. It's a bit poetic, it's a bit spiritual. If you want really brass tacks, hardcore shit, you should go somewhere else. But Data does a good job describing the basic philosophy, and he does it better than almost anyone, which is why he's become, kind of a seminal piece in this work. Now, I also don't agree with all his ideas, and I think some of his other work isn't as good. If you're a woman, read Dear Lover by him, which is the female version. And that stuff's amazing. Imprinting. Not sure what you mean by that, but imprinting is a whole nother wormhole. Amrita says, say the topic again. We're talking about male and female polarity, masculine and feminine sexual polarity, and why it's so backwards. Why do you think it's so confusing in 2022 for a man and woman to create a healthy, sexually healthy, emotionally healthy relationship? And why is there so much confusion around this? Eric in the house, rad to see you step into this topic. Yeah, brother. I'm stoked to speak more into it. It's about time. Got Go Dog Brooklyn in the house. Appledom says, good news is that human nature will always prevail, especially in societies whose constitutions respect free speech and individual rights. Yes, I think that's largely true. We're obviously seeing it be challenged in the world, but, let's hope it keeps going. Book Word Magic. Who's that one by? Ostra. Or Osreta Kimiji. Think society is going the wrong way. Feminism did more bad than good. Potentially. Women lost their duties and powers. I'm the woman talking. I love being a woman and taking care of the home and my family. Yeah, this is a big topic right here that some people, go deep into. And I'm learning from people that have gone deeper into these things than me, but there is real wisdom in looking at the different waves of feminism, right? There's like first, second, third, and fourth wave feminism, or the postmodern feminism, radical feminism. And, if you look at it basically, feminism is a great thing, right? Women should have equal rights as men and should be equal to men in terms of the law, in terms of earning, in terms of opportunity, etc., right? Which is obviously a healthy, great idea, right? Men and women are both sacred, they're both powerful, they both have different things they're really good at, and we want them to thrive, right? So that part, yes. And there's been egalitarian societies throughout history, and they're not always the most popular, but they have existed, and we know it works. Now, male dominance and the masculine ego, when it's in its sick tyrant form, or when we have, suppression of women's, enslavement of women, and we do that for a long time, which the West has done, we create a deep imbalance. Now, a lot of these women that are hardcore feminists, and this could be a false argument for you, so you got to figure out what works for you. This is what I've noticed. Have you ever met a radical feminist who felt embodied, radiant, feminine, in a healthy relationship with a man? Have you ever seen it? Have you ever experienced that? Have you had good ideas and reasons to understand why? And this is when it goes radical. Remember, this is the extreme version. I'm kind of painting the picture where they want to shame, blame, or guilt men, or attack men, or the institutions, or the patriarchy from a victim place, and create policies or laws or rules that try to create equality of outcome for men and women, completely irrespective of nature, of evolution, and the things that women are great at, which women are great at: social cohesion and the DNA of the inner tribe. Raising children, birthing children, raising children, the miracle of motherhood, and being connected to one another and managing the social and health and emotional fabric of the family and the community, which is women's superpower. Women are oracles at that. We want women out in the world fighting wars and, running our military or running Wall Street, or, being hyper strategic and hyper, in violent and dangerous professions. All things that men, the masculine, excels at. These are questions we have to ask ourselves. It's like, what kind of society and what kind of relationship do we want to create? And I do think feminism went too far. And there are a lot of feminists today in Scandinavia. I have brothers I know in Sweden who I've done men's work with there in Europe. And, it's getting pretty scary with how far some of this stuff has progressed. And actually, a lot of women are returning to classical feminism and pushing back against this radical, woke, cancel culture, left-leaning, craziness. And they just want to go back to women being equal, women being honored, and obviously having equal rights and equal opportunity, but not equality of outcome, and not shaming men or attacking men, right? Because this doesn't serve anyone. It hurts the women. They don't feel happy or fulfilled, even if the law passes in their favor. And the men in their lives feel emasculated. They feel their balls cut off. They're not having good sex. Nobody's getting well fucked. And there's a lot of emotional turmoil and sickness and sadness. And then it becomes gender confusion, and then maybe there's self-mutilation, or there's gender identity confusion. And then, I think a very small percentage of those people actually, become transgender, non-binary, or, same-sex relating from a real, authentic, healthy place that's serving them, where they're actually like, oh, wow, I actually would rather be in that. I think a lot of them, it's post-traumatic. And again, not an expert on this, my opinion. And, maybe there are people that need that level of intensity. Let's get to some other questions. I'd love to hear y'all's thought on this, because there's a lot of nuance here. Yeah, great to see you, brother. It's good to be back. Go dog, Brooklyn. I think it's interesting that the very powerful U.S. Supreme Court seems increasingly opposed to some of the things you expressed concern about. The real question is, why is the Supreme Court ruling on these things now? Like, what is the actual push in the society that would cause, things like abortion, things like same-sex marriage, to now enter the scene again after these things, no one's really thinking about them for a long time? Are we returning to a hyper-conservative pushback from all of the, hyper-liberal action that's happened? That's kind of my thinking, but I don't really know. It's interesting. We have less and less time for us. We're together with our partner and happy creating our reality where we have free time enough for each other, but lots of people lack time for each other. That's true. If both the man and the woman are working full-time jobs, are stressed out, have kids, where are they going to have the time to create intimacy and radical honesty and sexuality together and be high polarity and take care of the kids and have alone time and have time with their tribe? This is part of the danger of the way we've set up the world under the capitalist hyper hustle culture in the West, which is work, work, work. The state, the corporation is your main place of worship. It's basically like a religion. It's your main place of energy. And you will then go home and recover to do it again. And your relationship is secondary, your bedroom is secondary, your children are secondary, your village is secondary, which actually should be the other way around. All those things should be primary, filling you up with radiant health. And then you can go out into the world and do the dope things you want to do, even if that's working for a corporation that you support. But why do most people get it backwards? Well, it's simple. The methods of propaganda, the methods of brainwashing are so sophisticated that no one's even questioning it. Since World War II, since the US has kind of risen into dominance in the globalized world, and we defeated Nazi Germany and the bad USSR was defeated later, we've turned inward into this cycle of stagnancy and decay. And one of the things that is the hallmark of that, which the Roman Empire experienced when it fell, is the masculine and feminine polarity and union breaking down. And the core essence of the family breaking down. Norms being challenged and decaying to the point where people don't know what the fuck's going on. And so you have things like rape and abuse and violence in the home, domestic violence. You have divorce. You have, high levels of promiscuity and dating culture through dating apps and technology. All of these things are sometimes healthy, the dating culture part, not the abuse, expressions of the confusion. But when will you draw the line? When will you come back into the knowledge that we want healthy men and women in love, raising a healed generation of humanity? And that's where all of this leads. That's the crazy part about this, is this leads all back to how are we going to get out of this tailspin that we're in as humanity? How are we going to stop wars and all of these travesties that we see? The only way is stop the passing down of generational trauma, a lot of which is passed through the home and the man and the woman's relationship, the God and the goddess, and the miracle of birth and the mystery of love that it forms that power and that bond that's creating the next culture, the next generation, that's training them. I'm getting off on a rant here, but this is where all this stuff leads. This is not just trivial stuff. This is not just about having better sex or not just about getting the man or the girl that you want. This is about humanity's survival at the core level. So I want to hear what y'all think here. Good point. Time pressure. It's real. Rita says, I feel like the feminine is learning how to express herself and feel safe. The masculine is really healing from the archetype of power games. Yes, 100%. All the women I know work really hard and may sacrifice the motherhood archetype to do that. The men I know don't know what being a protector of the sacred is. A lot of truth there. Equal honesty, not greater. Christina Luis, Solar Feminine Arts is a great resource when it comes to polarity and relationship dynamics. Yeah, I think a lot of her work is really powerful. Eric says, why did they go without role models? I think that's what you're talking about here. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of strong role models. I mean, there are some. A lot of people are getting back into these things and are really questioning and moving into a place of wanting to understand a lot of these things. But we don't have good role models. Certainly in the mainstream culture and media, there's nothing. Extreme feminism is like the suppressed feminine trying to heal. Yes, it's true. Destruction of the family culture also plays a big role, the family structure. Yep. Tam, this is incredible talk. Please repost. I'm not going to repost this, but if you want my masterclass on this, send me a DM. I will get that to you. Make sure you're on my email list. I'm going to start sending out some more emails soon, doing this launch. I'm going to start sharing a lot more about this stuff. But this talk, I'm not going to save. There's plenty more where this came from. PTSD is so true. Interesting to point out gender confusion when not having good sex. I mean, there's big medicine in that. Well-fucked people that are fully expressed in their libido and their desire and their heart and safety don't form extreme sublimation tactics or trauma responses to try to get that energy moved. Okay? And religions understood this, yogis and monks have understood this. When you stop the expression of sexual desire in a healthy direction, and you don't have the tools to sublimate and use that energy in another way, for example, for meditation or for development of your consciousness, it will express in an unhealthy way. It will find a way to express. One of the traditional ways it expresses is violence and war. Whether it's physical violence and war or it's mental and emotional warfare. This is a big way that it can express. Caleb says the push is to distract you from their real goals. Who are they? Whose goals? On a personal level, I'm female. I had to really embody the masculine in order to survive. It made me strong, but I think maybe that dominance of energy in order to get things done, do what is necessary, cut me off from the creative power of the feminine. Hear this all the time from women, is that their energy of having to do and create that power and that structure, bringing their masculine online, which is very healthy and balanced. Obviously, it needs to be done. But if you can't switch back to your feminine, you're going to have a really hard time attracting a partner. And then once you have a partner, creating polarity. Simple as that. Yep, nice insight. Tim says, methods of brainwashing are so sophisticated. Yeah. Since World War II, have turned inward, cycle of stagnancy and decay. Hallmark is the masculine and feminine polarity and family breakdown. Read the book, Closing of the American Mind. Yeah, Tim, I mean, this is great stuff. Thanks for that recommendation. Catalyst of Culture, thanks for being here. I see Ale in the house, Ariana, Esther, Sataya, Megadave. That's a great handle. Well-fucked people fully express their libido, don't sublimate their energy. I mean, yeah, this stuff is not new, and I'm not, making this up. This is well described in Freud and in Jung. This is described in Lacan. This is described in Deleuze. This is described by Zizek. There's a lot of philosophers and psychologists out there that have been noticing these patterns for hundreds of years. And, obviously the Greeks knew about this thousands of years ago. Caleb, the media and the government, when you talked earlier about what is their push and the government getting involved. I mean, what you got to understand is there's not, and yes, I mean, you're right in many ways, but we need to be precise with our language and specific. We can't just say their agenda, the elites, We need to be very precise because there are factions everywhere. There's not some unified global conspiracy. There's factions everywhere. Their interests may align in many ways. Like, for example, the media, the main sources of media are bought and paid for by corporations, not the government. So what you got to understand is that the corporate state is much more powerful than the government system. and you just follow the money. But yeah, I don't pretend to know a lot of this stuff, because how do you know this? Like, how would you know that that's true? It's a rabbit hole, but all I would say is doubt and question if you're certain about some of these things, right? Because if it's on your phone, on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and you can find out about it and just read it, that's because it's in the open and it's being shown to you. So ask yourself what is not being shown. Ask yourself, where are you getting this information? This is a whole portal there. Anyway, talking about the generational trauma and family health, it's everything. My heart goes out to the children of this generation. Indeed. Kyla says, relate, lots of studying. Yes, study away. I would love to hear, some of your sources and where you're getting those ideas. World Economic Forum is at the top. I highly doubt that. World Economic Forum is a front and is, a cool, club of folks that want to, be seen to have this power and influence, but they're not at the top of any hierarchy, so to speak. It is a forum and a front for something probably different, and the different factions that are there. So, yeah, and this does tie in with the gender polarity stuff, because there are a lot of folks who, if you go to your doctor, right? If you go to your psychotherapist, if you go to your, priest at your local church and you ask them about these issues, you will be fed a simple and ridiculous myth around what a man and woman in a happy corporate state sanctioned relationship in your mainstream culture, whether you're in Europe or America or Asia, doesn't matter what that looks like, right? And there's going to be a certain frame, right? Well, you need to be happy, healthy, and consuming what we want you to consume, which is the reality shows that condition females to think a certain way about relationships, the cartoons and the movies that are conditioning the children to think about that, the economic and corporate warfare that conditions the masculine to think a certain way about their role, etc., etc., etc. And then if there are problems, if there's sexual health problems, well, there's a pill for that. The pharmaceutical myth is one that you can just solve any symptom with a pharmaceutical intervention, not of nature, of a laboratory. And this is very problematic. If it's a psychological problem, not even speaking of the heart, well, there's a therapy for that, there's a counseling for that, and we can solve it that way. And so this is kind of the main thrust of many of these issues. If you were to go to a professional, an expert right now, and ask, what should I do around relating, right? And this is obviously someone who had never been in personal development, or is, only watching CNN or MSNBC and going to their, local mainstream doctor or whatever, or mental health professional. And, not to say that these things aren't helpful for a lot of people. What's crazy is some people just get it and don't encounter these problems. There's tons of mainstream couples right now, with or without kids, that are perfectly polarized and happy, and in traditional masculine, feminine roles that work for them, with the modern lifestyle and their work and all their stuff, happy with kids. There's a ton of people like that. They would listen to this and not even see a problem. And they'd be like, yep. So what? I drink Coca-Cola, I shop at Walmart, I watch Disney movies, and everything's fine, And that's real. But you're not watching this because you're those folks. And a lot of people, if you've done any amount of inner work, or you've had crisis in your life, or altered states of consciousness, or a curiosity, a questioning, if you're any level above that kind of baseline, and you're asking yourself questions about what the fuck's going on? How do I create a sustained, powerful relationship? What is polarity? Why is there masculine and feminine identity issues? Why am I having these patterns repeat? Well, now you have to go into this work and you have to ask questions and develop why it has been so hard to create that. And it probably started with your parents and questioning that relationship. And it probably started in your dating life, or maybe you've been married and divorced, or maybe you've had long relationships. This is the work, right? This is some of the most deep alchemy and mysterious, powerful work that exists for human beings. And it's there in the mythologies of Buddha and Tara, of Yeshua and Magdalene. It's there in the alchemy of Isis and Osiris. It's there in, pick your mythology or philosophy. It's the masculine and feminine principles alchemizing and coming into harmony and coming into a connection. And it's at the core of the human experience, the very core, because it's what creates life. And we have to figure this out as a species if we're going to move forward. And if you're called to it, you're called to it, right? And I've been called to it, clearly. I didn't choose this. I never set out to teach this stuff or to coach in this way. It has happened because it's where my core wounds have been. It's where a lot of my research and practice has been. And I've also been very blessed with gifts of my voice and my experiences to be able to navigate it. And it's time to share that more and more. Catalyst says, do you think two powerful visionary leaders who are highly creative can find balance? And what are some tools? 100%. If you're a powerful visionary leader, you probably want a partner who's also a powerful visionary leader. And if you're highly creative, you probably want to be with someone who's highly creative. Now, to find balance, you're going to have to generate polarity. And the tools are, communication. The tools are sexuality. The tools are emotional awareness and well-being. The tools are distance and love languages and attachment styles and all these things that I'm going to be teaching in Primal Polarity around this, and understanding the map and the territory and some of the moves on the map if you're a man dating a woman or a woman dating a man, right? Interesting stuff and not easy. If you're a powerful, visionary, creative person, you're going to need more agreements or boundaries probably to maintain that relationship. Otherwise, there's going to be maybe conflict, because if you're both highly driven and powerful in that way, it's going to just require a little more finessing to help it figure out, like, how did that actually make that polarized. Caleb, it's been nice listening, chatting. Need to go to bed. Night. God bless. Cheers. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Maybe party figuring it out is never ending, like pie. It's certainly never ending, just like most of the human experience. You can just keep going and keep learning and experiencing and getting into a deeper territory of self-knowledge. That's what it comes back to, is knowledge of self, because that's what the other and loving the other is going to generate, is loving yourself, because that's the mirror alchemic work. And it's important to remember that. Well, as the wind shuts the door there, feeling complete. This was fun to come back here, make sure this thing is still working, and just share spontaneously. So very grateful for all of you. Thank you so much for listening. If you're not following or on my newsletter, hit my page, follow, go to the link in my bio, get on my newsletter, and I will send you the first masterclass I did on this topic, Primal Polarity, all around this. This is going to be, a series I'm going to do. Send me a DM if you don't have the masterclass. I can send it to you. This is going to be my 8-week program. I have 2 of my support coaches, Zach Gallardo and Scott Little, who are going to be joining me in this. 8 weeks for singles and couples, all around this topic. Deep dive into sexual polarity, tantra, attachment styles, love languages, how to create a polarized masculine-feminine relationship. This is for single people who want to date and get out there and attract that. This is for people who are already in a relationship to practice and master it. This is for non-binary folks as well. As long as you understand that you have either a masculine and feminine dominance, it's going to work for you too. That's it. Stoked to launch it. Stay tuned. I'm going to be posting a lot more about this, writing newsletters about this, creating videos about this. I'm going to be doing some interviews about this with some other people in the space and getting their opinions, their ideas. This stuff is so simple and intuitive because it's how you and all of your thousands of ancestors got to this point, was by practicing this. They wouldn't have had a village or a family or children if they couldn't practice it. But it's not easy, especially with the amount of propaganda and bullshit out there. It's not easy to see how easy it can be when you practice it, how simple, rather, it can be. And a lot of it is just remembering your primal nature, and it's being bold, it's being courageous, and it's leading with love. It's stepping into a committed capacity inside of that. So I'm excited to be teaching this. And yeah, there's about 30 spots in the program. Couples will get a discount if they join together, obviously. And yeah, stay tuned. Thank you all for listening. You are legends. I'm sending you all lots of hearts today. Go forth, wherever you are in the world. Be love. That's it.